Sparks fly on a factory floor in East.
Phil Goff's been sacked as well, there is
Another tropical cyclone, Alfred, slowly
Live. Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is trending with real sound. We had a problem with that last week, so nevertheless, welcome to the pre-show, everyone. We are, about 4 or 5 minutes away from going live with everybody else, but it's great to have your company. Many a story to talk about today. Quite the gamut, in fact, we are running, in keeping with our regular theme and unofficial theme song, of course, which I need to find right now, so please hold caller. Josh, how are things looking over there?
Things looking good. Oh, I'm making strange sounds over here. This is the pre-show, by the way. We haven't officially begun trending. Thank you for joining us on the stream. Of course, we're also live on the radio. That happens like bang on 12:05 once the news has done its thing,
Let me have a quick look. Yes, at this point, 12:05, well, basically 12:06, I think, factoring in the weather. As well.
Man, something's going on with my camera. I have a lot of headroom. You are perfectly framed, looking crisp and clean.
Remember to keep the microphone down, though. I think I've been having the microphone too high lately.
Yeah. I have it like down and then point it up so we can see your face.
Yes.
It's all about your face, Andrew.
Well, I mean, that is the nature of modern radio, isn't it? No more can you be some hatchet-faced basement dweller on radio. You've got to... Exactly. Got to, like, do your hair and floss your teeth and all that kind of stuff.
Shave?
Well, I mean, can anybody else hear that, by the way? Is that coming through for you guys? Can you hear that like, boop, boop, boop? You know when you've got something plugged into your computer and then you pull it out and then you put it back in and the computer's like, oh, there's a thing attached. That's the noise we're hearing.
I feel like I'm going to just try not to move as much as possible.
That sounds wise. Hang on, I'm going to turn off the stream on my side so we don't get an infinite death loop of audio.
Hello to a couple of people, by the way, watching up on YouTube, somebody up on Facebook at the moment as well. Good to see you. Thanks
Say
for
hello. Where are you joining us from? And any picks on what you think could be in the news from the last week? We will, and I'm saying this as something that we hadn't discussed previously, and specifically yet, Josh, see if we can hang out for about 10, 15 minutes after the stream see how we're going?
Yep. No worries.
You had a look in your face as if something...
Well, I did wonder, when you throw a curveball, it's usually pretty okay.
Josh is going to provide an exegesis on the book of Ecclesiastes after the show.
Yeah, I am.
So that will be worth sticking around for.
Give me just 5 minutes to Google an exegesis on the book of Ecclesiastes.
Please, if you're not using ChatGPT for that nonsense these days, are you even... I don't know.
Do you even radio?
Do you even life, I reckon, at this point? Got to say, though, this is not really a topic for this show. Maybe it is. Grok is my weapon of choice.
Grok? Is that a different AI?
It's the Twitter one. It's so good. So good. Heaps better than ChatGPT. Oh. If you ask me. Are you right?
Yeah, I'm just going to try bring my seat up so I don't look so short on the stream.
I see.
There we go. Look, I look like a normal-sized human being.
I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy.
Look, I do love doing this, everybody. Thanks for joining us for all this. It's equal parts just a show that we enjoy doing, but as you can tell, with having a live stream and being able to talk to you, a different way of doing radio, different way of doing media. I hope we do more of it around here. My kind of personal ambition is that this rolls on to other shows as well. I think it might cause some initial bursts of anxiety, though. You imagine if we start telling everybody else they have to do this during the shows?
Yeah, look, it could get a little bit... It would take adjusting, but...
Yeah. I mean, we could do it.
Absolutely.
It's not that hard.
No.
Or maybe, actually, I should say, no, it's incredibly difficult, Josh. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
you and I both
We're the
need,
only ones who
Yeah.
can.
We both need 5 or 6 digit pay rises
Sure.
to account for the dizzying array of skills that only you and I possess.
Absolutely. A few more people joining on the stream. Really cool to see, actually. Quite a few of you there. Do say hello. Do leave a comment. Do let us know where you're watching from. Would love to know what's going on in your day. What are your picks for what may show up in this edition of Trending? Of course, these are the trending news stories rather than those stories that the networks or the news outlets have said these are the ones you want to know about. These are the ones you've gone searching for more information about. But what do you reckon might be trending? Feel free to comment below.
Wouldn't be the same without you. Wouldn't want to do it without you anyway. We're about a minute off, actually, team, so I'm going to switch us over to the live version of the show. That's the one that goes out to the radio. But again, we will try and stick around for a few minutes after the show, just exclusively on the stream, just for you. All right? So that's the plan. Do stick around and be part of that with us. Otherwise, join the rest of the radio audience in just a moment.
Yeah, stand by for awkward pause while nothing happens and then something will definitely happen.
And then the camera's like scanning at us both and we're kind of blankly staring into space. My wife has also confirmed there is sound now. She's our off-site technical director, in case you're wondering. All right, here we go.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Good afternoon, friends. A pleasure to be with you once again on the radio and on the interwebs as we go through the news stories that have been happening over the last week. But with a bit of a twist, if it's your first time with us, we don't just review the big stories because after all, how would you know? How would you know what the big story was? Is it just the stuff that leads the nightly news? Is it just the biggest headline on any of your favorite news services? Oh no, we think there's something more to it than that. And the level of interest that people just like you, or nothing like you, might have shown to elevate a story either up the search results of places like Google or it was going to be great, and then you get there and realize you want to leave immediately.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Moving now to the Google-related search terms over the week. So these are the ones where people have gone searching particularly for a person, place, thing, event, whatever it might be. And, well, this one's sad news. The name in question was Dolly Parton. She was the number 15 most popular search term in the country, though maybe for those who already know, the reason people were searching wasn't so much to do with Dolly herself, but with her husband, Carl Dean. But for more on that, let's first go to this story from Entertainment.
I really believe that was one of God's greatest gifts to give me, Carl Dean.
Dolly Parton now giving a gift to her late husband, debuting a new song dedicated to Carl Dean.
Aww, you'd have to have a heart of stone not to be moved by that one. Beautiful story, of course. Dolly Parton's husband passing away at the age of 82. 60 years together, Josh.
Wow. As somebody who just celebrated their first anniversary.
Yep.
60 is a lot. But now hold on. Now hold on. I realize how that could have sounded.
Yep.
It's not what I meant.
Right.
It's admirable. It's
Look, mate, half of marriage, or maybe not half of it, but a substantial amount enough is the other person being charitable enough to know, I know you said it that way, but what you meant was. And from what I know of Christy, I'm sure, because she watches every show.
She does.
She put it through that lens, and she's chuckling away, even though she's probably going to wind you up about it when you get home.
I hope she does.
Yeah. She's one of the good ones, though, eh? Dolly Parton. She's one of those ones where, as certain celebrities get older, and this is true within faith circles, I don't know if you do this, but I know I do. There are certain people that you just think they've just done the best they can with their life. They're trying to help as many people as they can. If you look up Dolly in particular, look up free books, Dolly Parton, you will be blown away by the charity that she set up in the US to get books in the hands of kids all over the country. But as they get older, you're kind of like, please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. Please don't. You know, like when people get it, you don't want the story to come out. Oh, it turns out this whole time they're actually, trafficking people through Southeast Asia or something, or all manner of misbehavior, or there've been some kind of financial malfeasance or whatever it could be. But she just seems like somebody who has done the very, very best with what God gave her in this life, has used that to try and help other people. And again, a sad moment for her too, but she's a gem.
Oh, she really is. And even that song particularly is one that is garnering a lot of attention due to the recent events, the passing of her husband. We also wondered, by the way, if you're watching on the stream right now or, of course, listening, did you want us maybe to play that song in full?
That's true.
Here on Rima, we certainly have the space and capacity to do that.
Well, the other way of saying this is my show. I can do what I want.
Yeah, well, exactly. But Dolly is like, we can play Dolly on Rima.
We played Dolly. Actually, very recently, Dolly had her first ever gospel music song with one of my faves, Zach Williams.
Oh, Zach Williams.
Yes. That was, I think, the first one she'd done. So she's technically, she's always been a Christian anyway. She's spoken a lot about her faith throughout her life. Even though you would have seen that message saying her husband's in the hands of God now, and she's okay with that. So technically qualifies as determined by me. So there, if you do want to hear the song, well, now it's up to you, isn't it?
Yep, that's right. Text on through 8168 with the keyword Rima, or if you are watching on the stream, thank you for coping with us while we had a few sound issues. We are back now, it seems, and do let us know, because if you want to hear that full song, just leave a comment below.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now let us continue to navigate our way around the internet and the stories that were capturing people's attention in all sorts of different places. Now we head to the spin-off, somewhere that I love to head to with usually a different take than most other news services. Kind of combines a news and, what would you say, like culture and entertainment.
Yeah, like
approach.
A Gen Z even.
Yeah, that's fair.
Kind of approach to the news.
So the most popular story on the spin-off, at least the other day, was 50 things I learned from nearly 80 hours of submissions on the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, I thought this was fascinating, and especially to see it so popular on that side as well.
Yeah, look, this has been a constant conversation to varying degrees of tension, shall we say?
Can I just, I'll just call out the old elephant in the room right now. Josh, when the topic of discussing the Treaty Principles bills comes up, your initial impression is...
You got this, Andrew.
Oh. Yeah, funny, isn't it? At some point, we're going to have to deal with that. I don't know how we do it because, look, you can let me know your take on this as well in the chat. That's what it's for, and Josh will remind you the details in a moment. But I will say that my sense, one man's opinion here at, 12:22 on a Wednesday afternoon, is that we're constantly told that this needs to be a conversation that we have. But my goodness, is there the pressure to not say the wrong thing about it?
Yeah, you just kind of feel it's best left to go,
Smile and nod. Yep.
Especially if somebody, on whatever point of view, is
Sure.
speaking on it to you.
Yep.
Because at least I feel, and being vulnerable and honest here, I just don't have enough of a grasp to argue, to contradict, to even ask any more questions because I
Sure.
just don't know
Yeah.
that I'm adding any value. Then again, am I supposed to add value or should I just be looking to learn?
Well, and this is the thing. I do feel there's a lot of mixed messages on this too, because we're seeing a lot of comment from people, and this is more in the, I don't know, what would you call them? The professional illiterati space. People whose whole job is to have opinions on things and study stuff, is to disqualify certain people from the ability to share their opinion on it. So I know there was one in particular, I think Richard Prebble, formerly of ACT and of course from Labour, if you go that far back, voiced some opinions on it, and people immediately came out and said, well, he's not allowed to say anything about this because he doesn't know blah, 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 blah. He's historically illiterate or whatever. Now, not even trying to weigh the merits on that sort of thing. If this is something that is part of our national discussion, I mean, surely you can have an opinion. Can you not? You can't say, let's have a conversation about it, said, but not these people, which is what tends to happen. And by the way, this is not an exclusive left or right thing. Everybody does this. It's another example of the old Rorschach test we talk about a lot on this show. It's an inkblot test. It's whatever you believe about the world you see in the story, whether it's there or not. All to say, coming back to this article on the spin-off, but before I do share some of these things, Josh, if people have got thoughts on this, let them know how to share them with us.
Super simple to do so if you are watching via the stream. And if you want to watch, by the way, if you're listening going, man, I'd love to actually engage that way, see what is going on, see the videos, etc. Simply head to rema.co.nz. You'll find all the social links there. You need both, Facebook or YouTube. But if you are listening the traditional way, so good to have you. Don't forget you can text on through 8168 with the keyword REMA.
Yeah, I'll pop something in the chat to just let us know, how do you feel about the whole Treaty Principles bill as of right now? The good, the bad, and the ugly. But there was a few things about this article on the spin-off that I was heartened to read. And so I thought I'd share those with you too. One of them kind of illustrating what I've mentioned for the last moment or two. This was number 9 out of their list of 50 things from the writer. Many of us still don't understand the treaty. And then number 10 was, many of us think we understand the treaty, but we don't.
Yeah.
Fair? Fair. Which is kind of, when we talk about the ability to have a conversation around this, there are people who oppose the idea of the Treaty Principles Bill, some of them just from a purely legal framework to say you're trying to make the treaty say something that it doesn't, and we need to use other means to enforce what these principles are all about. But it illustrates the fact that for a lot of people, we don't really get how the treaty applies practically to modern New Zealand. And that is across the political aisle. I mean, some people will bolt on anything and say it's a treaty issue. I remember the example I've shared a couple of times was when New Zealand First brought in the changes or demanded changes to smoking legislation in New Zealand as part of the coalition agreement. People said that those changes were a violation of the treaty. I'm prepared for that to be true, but I don't understand how that is possible. And then also, too, there was a new Green MP that came on board and said that trans issues are a Treaty of Waitangi issue. You're taking the piss at this point, aren't you? I mean, at the risk of being a bit too blunt, trans issues are absolutely an issue we have to discuss in New Zealand because trans people exist in New Zealand. Like, how are we going to function as a society, whether you agree with it or not? But to tell me it's a Treaty of Waitangi issue, come on. Anyway.
Seems like a TUI poster.
Yeah, yeah, right. There's a few others, though, and this is kind of what I did appreciate about it. Some of the last points, 46 through to 49. 46, there are so many good social workers and educators in this country trying to do what's best for our tamariki. Great finding. 47, there are so many good health workers in this country trying to do what's best for New Zealanders. Great point to make. Number 48, there are so many New Zealanders who just want what's best for each other. Wonderful. And 49, there are so many good people everywhere in this country. Don't lose faith. Can I say how wonderful it was to read that? People can have different perspectives on who we're actually referencing when we talk about these kind of people. But just to remember, if you are a little bit too deep in the headlines, that there are good people trying to do their best. And can I suggest, at the risk of maybe speaking beyond my station, for any relationship to work well, you need to have an assumption of best of intentions. If you believe the person that you are speaking to is not trustworthy, malicious in any particular way, that relationship will not work. That's true for a marriage, it's true for a friendship, it's true for a workplace. The fundamental place to begin from, in my experience, is to believe that people have the best of intentions and then go from there. We are very prone to assuming people who disagree with us have the worst of intentions deliberately, but it's not good for us. It's not good for us as a country. It's not good for us relationally. It's not good for us with our neighbors or our workmates. So to read this from the spin-off, I thought at least was a good reminder of that. Let's try and keep the best of intentions where we can.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Now, before we continue on, Andrew, let's do a little bit of a chat and text update. Looking at the chat, thank you, Ross, watching via the YouTube. Also, good to see the numbers continue to rise as the show goes on.
Good stuff.
He says, hi, guys, stop for lunch so I can check out the live chat.
Oh, man.
Would love to hear Dolly's new song.
Okay, that's one for Dolly. Good.
And moving over to the text, Fiona obviously listening the traditional way, or of course, she could have just gotten in touch if she was watching the stream. But if you are watching the stream, leave a comment below. But she says, Rima, Dolly's song, please.
Ooh, I mean, okay, if we get one more, how's that? We get one more that says, yes, give me Dolly, we'll do it.
Okay. If
All
you
right.
want to get in touch, 8168 with the keyword Rima. We talked about it as it was one of the trending stories over the week that was. Dolly Parton, sadly the passing of her husband, but a new song released, very beautiful song. If you want to hear it, text on through, or of course you can leave a comment below if you're watching on the stream.
Wonder if we're going to get into trouble with the streaming people if we do this.
Ooh, right.
We're going to do it anyway.
Well, yeah,
but, I'm just saying in general, that's,
At this point in time in the life of trending, we are building our audience. We've got viewers on both Facebook and YouTube, but they're lower numbers as opposed to like big streams. But that means we can get away with little things like that, so it should be fine.
I can't wait for the email that says, oh, you can get away with things, can you?
We were watching. Oh, sorry.
Anyway, let's dive into another story. Now, in this case, we're looking at one that was number 10 in the country. Another name, to be honest, was not familiar with them, but Chris Stapleton. Chris Stapleton, Josh.
Yeah.
Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, Chris.
Not Eric Stapleton.
No.
Not Bob Stapleton.
No.
No.
John Stapleton?
Possibly.
No.
I mean, there would have to be, surely.
I guess so. Yeah. Who is
Chris Stapleton?
Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, well, he is a country artist, and there was actually something about this written on stuff.co.nz that caught my attention. Lloyd Burr, who you might recall from, say, Today FM, he's also been a news journalist in this country for quite a while now. He went along to the concert, but his review starts with, "Don't take your notepad to a Chris Stapleton concert."
Oh, good.
Good advice.
Yeah. I was so definitely planning to head to this artist who I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Might be great, by the way, not diminishing his talent in any way, shape, or form. But of course, when I go to a concert, first thing,
Notepads.
make sure to, notepad.
Write down the set list or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, in this case, I think maybe Lloyd was not particularly familiar with Chris's music. So to make sure that you and I are, at least up to speed with who we're talking about, here's a little snapshot of Chris Stapleton. This video, 823 million views. Came out 9 years ago, though. So I don't know if it's still on the play. You'd think if you had a song that had that many views, though, you'd probably play it at all your shows, wouldn't you?
Look, you've got to have it at some point on the set list.
That's true. Everyone's waiting out for it.
Speaking of the set list, by the way, we're getting a lot of love on both the stream and the text for Dolly's song. Debbie saying, yes, please. Sharon saying, yes, please. Play Dolly's song.
Alrighty.
On the chat
Anyone
as well.
said no? Has anybody said don't play Dolly's song?
No.
I guess we didn't really give people the option. We said tell us you want to hear it or
I
keep
suppose
it to
it's
yourself.
inferred.
What? Well, then the vast majority of people don't want to hear it then, do they?
Oh. No, you have to get it. Look, if you don't have your say, if you don't exercise
If you don't
your
vote,
diplomatic
you
right
can't complain.
to vote, you can't complain.
Exactly. Well, look, here's a bit of Chris Stapleton first, and then, I think it's decided at this point, isn't it? We've got to play a bit of Dolly. But this is what Chris Stapleton sounds like when he's singing about Tennessee with so forth. So that's Chris Stapleton anyway. Called it. Having said that, you're not that clever if you reckon you can predict how a country music song goes called Tennessee Whiskey.
Ooh, look, if we're going to get into the country music debate, I'm not a fan, but that's the whole point of the genre, right? That it's known, that it's predictable, shall we say?
You know what's great is watching Josh's face if you're on the stream right now when you realize he's committed himself to saying something and then halfway through realize what he's done. And invoked the wrath
I also realized
of the country music community at the same time as a whole bunch of Dolly Parton fans have made their voices known, clearly indicating there is a big enough country music community.
That's the other thing is I know there is a big contingent of Rima listeners who love country. And you have fun with that.
Yeah, you have every right.
Yeah.
All to say, though, Chris Stapleton, he was performing in New Zealand. Lloyd went away. What is interesting to me, though, is that clearly Lloyd is not a Chris Stapleton fan. He's just been, sent along for work purposes, as you do. But I want to know, in amongst the requests for Dolly Parton songs today, maybe Josh, this applies to you somehow. Have you ever been dragged along to a concert, or maybe dragged is the wrong word, but ended up attending a concert or a performance for something that you wouldn't have normally gone to, but because it was like a friend or a family member or somebody else who invited you or bought you a ticket, you ended up there anyway?
Somewhat. I remember going particularly for one band that was performing, not at like a festival, but it was like a summer set list kind of thing. So there was a few. And the band I liked was the headliner. So they were last. So you kind of sat through three other bands. You're like, don't know any of your songs.
Yep. We're the Desert Weasels, and this is our song, Magenta Sunshine. You're like, cool, what? I don't know what's happening.
That's definitely a real band, and that's a real song. I almost guarantee it.
Yeah. In my case, back in the day, when I was but a uni student doing some work experience.
But a wee lad.
I was working for The Rock, and ended up getting tickets to go to a Tool concert. Didn't mind so much at the time.
How dare you invoke the name of another radio station on this radio station?
To be fair, I don't think there's a lot of crossover between Rima and The Rock. Just
probably not.
Ironically enough, when you consider, rock-type metaphors are very popular around here. Anyway, Tool are a progressive rock band, I suppose, modern metal, and it was a little bit weird. I didn't pay to go, so that was fine. Well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Because I went with the promo team and just,
Did you stay?
Yeah. Well, because, that was the thing. I'd come with the promo team.
Oh, so you kind of had to.
So I kind of had to. And then I'm just standing around being like, yeah, that was basically it. So if you can relate to that, maybe you can relate to Lloyd Burr and you've got to take notes on something. Maybe you went, did you go for a girl? Did you go for a guy? Come on. Has
your wife taking you along to something that you went, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I'll go.
All wives, look, we know that it goes the other way.
I was going to say, have your wives taken you along, Josh? Getting very Old Testament on the show today. Goodness me.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Let's see what else we've got. And now a story that is popular everywhere. This was popular on CNN. This was popular on One News. This was popular on Al Jazeera. And it was all to do with stocks. Oh, yes. And the US stock market, Donald Trump's tariff battle with the rest of the world. Why don't we see what Al Jazeera had to say about it first, and then we'll come back and get some thoughts.
Sparks fly on a factory floor in eastern China. The production line making exercise treadmills is in full flow. A third of its output goes straight to the US market, about 150,000 units a year. And despite the new tariffs, orders haven't dropped.
The techniques and the entire supply chain of the products, like the ones we produce, have certain technical requirements. For the time being, no other country or region can replace products made in China.
You think turtlenecks are back, by the way?
Only if you're watching on the stream do you get the comment. But he pulls it off.
He's looking very dapper. This is the interview with whoever it is in this factory. But yes, if you do jump onto the stream, you'll see a very dapper man standing in front of much more workmanlike people, and a fancy little pin as well.
Yeah, rima.co.nz to find the stream for both Facebook or, of course, YouTube.
But the latest export figures show a decline. Part of that is due to the long Chinese New Year holiday. But tariffs are an increasing concern for the government, despite its defiant statements at the National People's Congress this week.
No country should expect to suppress and contain China on one hand, while maintaining good relations with China on the other.
The small commodities market in Yiwu is the largest of its kind in the world. 5.5 million square meters of market space. It did $70 billion worth of business last year, but now the traders are worried.
I'm concerned about the tariffs because America is still the largest consumer market for our party celebration products.
The additional tariffs will increase the price of goods for customers, which will make it difficult for us to export more goods abroad.
China still has one big advantage. Many of these products are significantly cheaper than the competition manufactured elsewhere, even with the extra costs. And the orders are still flooding in.
Despite the tariffs, containers here
It's Dolly Parton and the song that she has dedicated to her just passing husband, Craig Dean, after about 60 years together.
Yeah, beautiful song. Way I wrap up trending. Lovely to hear that a lot of people did want to hear that song. We've got the stream back, hopefully with sound now. We want to also say thank you for bearing with us as we walk through a little bit of technical difficulties today.
Yep.
Once again, a massive shout out to Owen behind the scenes doing a lot of good work. Wonderful show of trending, minus a few hiccups, shall we say.
Hey, look, mate, life is the hiccups. Life is the hiccups, man.
Amen.
That's the only way to handle it. But look, thank you, as Josh mentioned, for joining us today. You know, there was one story we didn't manage to get to. And so if you stick around for the next few moments, partly because we had some challenges with the audio, we're going to talk about that story in overtime. That's right. If you want to hang around on the stream, either on Facebook or on YouTube for the next few moments, we'll talk about that story with you in just a second. But if you do have to be on your way, quite all right. We're just grateful you decided to take a few minutes and spend them with us here today too, either via the radio or on the live stream. This has been trending for another Wednesday, the 12th of March, 2025. And I'm Andrew Curtis. Thanks again. Alrighty, and now the post show, everybody. So let's just take everything out of the radio stream so that it can be just you and I. Sorry about the hassles, by the way, everyone. Hope you've been able to find the news stream okay. Who am I speaking to if you didn't find this? That kind of, it's fairly exclusionary already, Josh.
So what was the question?
I said, what's your problem anyway? And when do you back up your ideas, young man?
I'm so distracted.
Yeah.
I do apologize.
You're right.
Yeah.
How's things looking for you?
Yeah, looks good. Looks like we are back and tracking well. We are streaming. It's the same stream. We didn't start a new stream.
Oh, that's good.
We still do have people with us. They are obviously the VIPs.
The VIPs, exactly. The OGs, as they do say. All right, so look, there was one story we didn't have time to get to today, but I figured we may as well come back to it then because we got all the audio for it. That was the number 9 story in the country over the last week.
This was probably one of the stories we were thinking we'd actually spend the most time on.
Yeah.
A lot to talk about today. Didn't actually find the spot for this, particularly having our wonderful special guest in studio. But yeah, we definitely, I feel, we've got to hit this story.
Yeah, Phil Goff. Phil Goff was the number 9 story in the country, lost his job. Way too easy to jump on board the old, Trump bashing train. Say what you will about him, but not if you're the ambassador to the UK. And that's exactly what he did. Let's see first up what One News had to say about all this.
Phil Goff's been sacked as New Zealand's High Commissioner to the UK after comments about Donald Trump. Foreign Minister Winston Peters says the remarks were deeply disappointing and made the position untenable. He's dismissing the veteran politician without consulting Prime Minister Christopher Luxon. Political editor Mikey Sherman has more details and reaction.
A career politician since entering Parliament in 1982, Phil Goff has served as a Cabinet Minister, Labour leader, Mayor of Auckland and, up until today, the High Commissioner to the UK. He's been told to go after comparing Donald Trump's approach to Russia and the war in Ukraine to a speech from Winston Churchill at a public talk on international relations.
You had the choice between war and dishonour. You chose dishonour, yet you will have war.
He then mentioned the bust of Churchill seen here looming over that explosive meeting between Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky.
President Trump has restored the bust of Churchill to the Oval Office, but do you think he really understands history?
While some laughed, it was clearly awkward.
Well, saying that
Peters calling it unacceptable and calling time on Goff's diplomatic career.
Why was it untenable for him to remain in that position?
Well, if you'd have made that comment about Germany, France, Tonga or Samoa, I'd have been forced to act, and it's seriously regrettable. One of the most difficult things one's had to do in a whole career.
You heard that right. Peters says sacking Goff is one of the most difficult things he's had to do.
Well, I've worked with Phil Goff and known him for a long time. I've worked in government with him. It's just those serious decisions one has to make.
Despite that, Peters hasn't spoken to Goff, leaving it to department officials to break the news.
Was there any opportunity for him to explain himself?
But you can't explain this. When you are in that position, you represent the government and the policies of the day. You're not able to free think. You are the face of New Zealand.
I think Winston Peters is entitled to make it clear to Phil Goff that, he thinks he went too far and overstepped. Whether that reaches the threshold for a dismissal, ultimately that's a call for Winston Peters to make.
Goff's former boss and Labour Prime Minister Helen Clark today calling it a very thin excuse for a sacking.
I don't listen to Helen Clark and I don't respond to Helen Clark. She used to be Prime Minister, she's not Prime Minister today.
But even today's Prime...
That is the best response I've ever heard from Chris Luxon about anything. I mean, there's more about this as it goes on. Any thoughts on this, though, from you, Josh?
Seemed pretty thinly veiled.
You reckon?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Well, look, Winston Peters didn't go to Chris at all.
Right.
Chris found out about it afterwards. He didn't do the sacking himself.
Yeah.
He left the powers that be to do that. You can't be a free thinker? Is that what Winston Peters said? You can't be a free thinker if you're in that position. You have to.
Well, you can't be a free speaker, I think, as well. Okay, so it's like
you
this.
Can't. I don't know. Look.
Well, here's the thing. This is the big difference between New Zealand and somewhere like the US, right? The US has a constitutionally enshrined right of free speech.
Yeah.
Where you can say whatever you want. New Zealand doesn't have that. We have the value of free speech, but it's not backed up by anything constitutionally. I would also say too, and you can tell that there was a little more to it than maybe it seems on the surface by the response of that Finnish foreign minister, I believe it was, wondering how to respond to this, because when you are speaking about other leaders on the world stage, that's why they call it diplomacy.
That is true.
You can't just be, paying out, especially allies. Maybe if it said something about, well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like
Russia?
If it was Russia, maybe you could have said it
Then
about
again,
Russia.
Right now,
that's a good point. Puts you on the wrong side of Donald Trump, perhaps. Ooh, what does this all mean? Yeah, but interesting though. End of his career.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a bummer that he didn't get a call from Winston as well, right? Like, imagine you get back, open up your email, bam, boom, 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 and I'm fired. Okay, well, that was a tough day at the office.
I mean, also, when you are, there is a lot of degree of, we have insinuated from his comments, and I guess that is definitely what he meant, but he asked the question rather than saying he doesn't understand history.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm okay with it. If you are it doesn't say he's the ambassador, right? It said he's the high commissioner, which means what exactly? I don't know. The point being, you do have to be careful about how you speak about, even if it is, you can have your own opinions privately, but when you are speaking on behalf, you're speaking on behalf of the country.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of your job.
That's a very good point.
You are speaking on behalf of the country, and when you are in that role, speaking on behalf of the country, as opposed to as a private citizen in the comfort of your own home, I'm sure if he'd said something like that to a friend, and was recorded in his own house, might have been different. But then again, I don't know. Even then, do you really get the luxury of having, falling back on being a private citizen when you are effectively the voice of a whole other nation, even if you are, a few thousand Ks away? Phil needs another job. What do you reckon?
Trending? We need a producer.
Trending. Oh, good point. Hey, look, thanks everybody for sticking around for a few extra minutes today. Before we do go, I don't know if you've got any other thoughts on the stories that we shared today or feedback on how the show has gone. I know it's been a bit of a challenge. I don't know how many people we still have with us on the stream, Josh.
Yeah, a couple of people up on Facebook and also on YouTube right now. So yeah,
Nice.
still a few people sticking around. Thank you so much.
Couple of bots from a Russian bot farm.
Trump probably watching now, and we're going to get cancelled.
No, that's it. You're fired, Josh. You can't be talking about Donald Trump like this. You're the voice of Christianity in New Zealand on this show. You can't just be
willy-nilly,
just firing off of the hip as you are so wont to do. All right. Well, that's going to be our lot for the day. Then, sorry for the challenges, but we will persevere. And you're the ones who make it all worthwhile too, by the way. So thanks again for your thoughts, your comments that you've sent through today. Been an interesting old one. So we're going to pass it back now to, well, the regular radio, I suppose. I think Focus on the Family is going right now anyway. So if you want to brush up on your parental skills, that could be the place to go.
It's a Rema. Of course, you can listen via the new Rema Media app.
Ooh,
if you are a person who's watching the stream, you're probably pretty tech savvy, so do get the new Rema Media app. You can listen to whatever station, Sanctuary, Life FM, Rema. You can flip between all of them.
Oh my gosh, so many options. Thanks again, team. We'll see you next week. Bye.